Hello, you're listening to Abstract AF and I'm Sneha Deswal. I'm going to be reviewing the 2022 movie Persuasion. Now, before I begin the review, there's a little confession. I have never seen a film with Dakota Johnson as the lead protagonist. Not until this 2022 Netflix film. So as a viewer, I had a slight advantage of not having any prejudice or preconceived notions against the actor, so I was quite taken in by her charm as Anne Elliot in the film. Directed by Carrie Cracknell, the film is based on the classic novel of the same name by Jane Austen. But the makers take a lot of creative liberties with the story, so much so that perhaps fans who feel very strongly about the classic novel might be terribly disappointed, annoyed, or irritated with this frivolous retelling. Fortunately for me, I don't feel too passionately about Austen's work and thought the flick was beautifully shot, breezily told, but predictably closed with a trite, stale ending. In short, it's actually not a bad one-time watch for an old-fashioned summer romance set in a distant past, or 1800s to be exact. Now, the plot is loosely the same as the book, but Anne Elliot, the protagonist, is quite different in the film. She still in the movie is the only sane middle child of an affluent family, with two very vain sisters and an even vainer father. At the start of the film, she tells us that she's been nursing a heartbreak for over 8 years, ever since she was persuaded into turning down the man she loved because he wasn't rich enough. But when the two meet again under different circumstances, Anne begins to rethink her decisions, which is further complicated by the arrival of another attractive eligible man on the scene. Now, Dakota Johnson narrates the film and constantly breaks the fourth wall, so she looks to the viewer to voice what's on her mind, like what Deadpool does in Marvel movies. Dakota employs the plot device with a lot of easy sass, bearing her mind to the viewers and critiquing those around her. Basically, she's a casual bitch with an aching heart. Cosmo Jarvis plays her ex-lover, Mr. Wentworth, the man who she rejected because he wasn't rich enough, but now he's a captain and quite wealthy. Unfortunately, Cosmo Jarvis, the actor, looks very tired, scruffy, and done with life. He's not the dashing romantic hero one would hope for. He has zero charm and no screen presence. It really makes you wonder why the casting directors put him in the lead role. Henry Golding, on the other hand, plays the other possible suitor and is a lot more interesting than Wentworth, but has a surprisingly small cameo. This 2022 retelling of Persuasion exists in its own bubble, practically an alternate universe really, where Anne has a bit of a drinking problem. She drinks a lot of wine, has her hair down all the time, goes for a swim in the sea whenever she feels like. Well, nothing she does is typical of a lady of her stature from the 1800s. And then there's the Bridgerton bubble. Bridgerton, the show, the Netflix show. Basically, even in Persuasion, Anne exists in a world where African American folks were part of British aristocracy and married white people as if all sorts of races were a part of a big happy country devoid of racial divides. It is best not to wonder about historical inaccuracies and treat things like fan fiction if you want to enjoy this film. The contrasting character of Anne amid her conceited family makes for an amusing watch, especially against her whiny little younger sister Mary, played quite nicely by Mia McKenna Bruce. The lavish, colorful sets, the blue waters, and the fancy, sprawling houses where the story unfolds are all very engaging. Too bad Dakota Johnson has no chemistry with Cosmo Jarvis. Also, considering how the makers shook everything up, the climax was at odds with the rest of the tale. I was really hoping for something more different even at the end, but that didn't happen. Regardless, Persuasion turned out to be entertaining, largely because of Dakota Johnson. The romance was quite boring. I'm going with a generous 6 on 10 for this film. A lot of viewers, especially Jane Austen fans, didn't think it deserves even a 1 star out of 10. So, yeah, watch it with a pinch of salt or skip it. That's all for this review. Talk to you the next time.